Part 5, Living in Surrender. Chapter 18, Peace. The day the power of love overrules the love of power, the world will know peace. Mohandas Gandhi. What begins to happen when you start to surrender the negative emotional energy that has dominated your life for so long? When surrender occurs at very deep levels in your life, everything will begin to change. Ironically, everything will appear as though it is changing, yet not much of anything may have changed. You are simply becoming aware of the substrate of all life, the divinity that pervades all of life and is permeating you in greater ways. You simply are now more aware of reality itself than ever before. Reality is the pervasive expression of divinity that can be seen in every aspect of life. You begin to identify more and more with the truest part of you. Life can become quite magical when we surrender into divinity. Even when life is perceived as being tough or we have bad things happen to us, we handle them differently than before. We look at life through a different lens, a lens that can help us to see love, joy, and peace, even in the midst of what the world might consider tragedy, pain, or suffering. We will finally start to fulfill what every person truly wants in life. The reason for this is because we are all innately programmed for this as our eventual destiny. The answer to life's most essential question. Whenever I ask anyone in the clinic what they ultimately want from life, the answer is almost universally the same. I just want to be happy. Happiness and beyond happiness, joy, is an inside job, which is why so many people that are chasing things in the physical world are constantly disappointed once they acquire what they thought would bring them the happiness they desire. As you go progressively inward, you will find the source of life, the source of joy, love, and peace. This is what true happiness is, because we all carry this ultimate desire within us. In fact, it is what drives all of life, whether we are aware of it or not. Therefore, this chapter is dedicated to talking about what can be experienced when we go inward and how we will see this change in our lives. If you want happiness and joy beyond that, all you have to do is let go of and surrender that which is not love, joy, and peace inside of you. It is the eternal paradox. You are already what you seek. You just haven't stepped into the full reality or knowledge of this truth yet. So many times we need convincing that something is the pathway towards what we ultimately want. Many people work out hard in gyms because much of the time doing so will ensure the outcome they desire, which is a chiseled or toned body. People work hard because they desire to have success in whatever they envision that to be. People date and get married because of how they think this other person will fulfill them and make them happy. Benefits of letting go and surrender. Humans behave in agreement with what they think will meet their needs and wants. For many, these needs are being projected out into the world. We mistakenly think that something outside of ourselves will make us happy. Letting go of your inner emotions gets to the root of everything. Rather than chasing after the projected happiness we think we desire, we simply realize that we are already it and then dedicate ourselves to surrendering into it. It truly is an inside job. Below are some of the things that we benefit the most from as a result of continually engaging and surrendering to what is inside of us. Your consciousness changes. Consciousness is a measure of how aware or awake you are in the world. The more you surrender, the more you wake up and see life as it really is. You begin to see more and more clearly how life is pervading and influencing everything you see and experience. You are less confused about things and have more clarity about yourself, others, and what is happening in the world. Rather than just seeing the appearance of things, you begin to perceive the essence of things instead. Real health has to happen somewhere inside of you, in your subjectivity, in your consciousness, because consciousness knows no birth and no death. It is eternal. To be healthy in consciousness means first, to be awake, second, to be harmonious, third, to be ecstatic, and fourth, to be compassionate. Rajneesh. You become more loving. How many times a day do you judge what you are feeling or doing in the world? How aware are you that you are even judging yourself in the first place? No one wants to be judged. All judgment of others is just self-judgment. Judgment is just anger that is being projected onto people or the world. The more you surrender anger, the less you judge, and the more loving you become. Greater self-love automatically means more love for others and the source of life or God, which is your very life. You cannot love someone more than you love yourself. Be the change you wish to see in the world, Gandhi once said. By loving yourself in this way, you'll become the love that you've always wanted. You'll become the object of your deepest desires. Love begets more love. If you want to be loved, love more. Yet you are not loving so that you get more love. This would not be love. This would be cravingness and behaving so that you can selfishly get something from others. Love doesn't need anything from others because it is whole and complete as it is. The more you love, it just automatically floods your world simply as a byproduct of what you have become. The more you love, the more it constantly surrounds you. We are all projecting our emotional frequencies out into the world. As you experience more love, you will attract more love from everyone and everything naturally in your world through situations, people, and experiences. Your filter of the world changes. We don't see the world as it is. We see the world only as we are. If we are angry, we are going to see a world of anger. If we're afraid, we see the world as a place that only generates and perpetuates our fears. The same goes for any negative emotion that dominates our consciousness. If you are filled with pride, all you might see in the world is competition, opinions, being better than others, and seeing others as a threat to you. As you become more loving, love becomes your filter in the world. You start seeing the world through the lens of love, even in the toughest and most brutal of circumstances. So no matter what happens to you, instead of reacting with anger, fear, or guilt, you don't experience these things as you once did because of the love radiating through you into every circumstance of life. You are no longer a victim of events, circumstances, people, or bad things. You choose how you want to experience life by way of what you have become. Much of our world is driven by a victim mentality. A victim mentality is one that people feel when life gets out of control. Victimhood in the emotional world is driven by fear and anger. When we feel oppressed, we get angry and lash out. This anger is simply just a smokescreen to the fear that we feel. Life isn't really out of control or unfair. It simply is the perception we have based upon the fears that we're carrying around. Being at peace, though, does not mean that you continue to allow someone to take advantage of you. It is not loving to yourself to allow things to happen to you that you can change. The changes in your life are made from love rather than from reactivity and anger. Many of the movements worldwide defending those who are marginalized today arise because of fear and anger. While desiring a better world for everyone is good, healthy, and noble, movements that are driven by fear and anger will never change the world. Even in the face of being marginalized, people can still choose love. But this is not what happens many times. Instead, a movement or organization forms that is perpetuated by force, anger, and not true power, love. We can advocate for anything, but we must be aware of the emotions driving us to advocate. Love is the unstoppable force in this world. Love also doesn't mean inaction. Mother Teresa was a woman who embodied love, yet she did not sit around all day doing nothing. Love drove her to even more intense action in the world. She brought dignity to those who didn't experience much internal dignity. When you complain, you make yourself a victim. Leave the situation, change the situation, or accept it. All else is madness. Eckhart Tolle. You feel more urgency or a calling to help others surrender their lives to being love and peace. Upon deep inner transformation, you may find yourself wanting to participate in more activities which would help others to experience the same thing. Often people may feel a deep desire to change jobs, explore the world, and help others in some way. Something wakes up and stirs in you that helps you realize that nothing else in life is as important as waking up growing spiritually, and surrendering into being. While the image of someone fervently trying to proselytize another may come to mind, this is not what happens in states of love. Being at peace means that if someone talks to you, wonderful. If they do not, that's wonderful too. No attachment to needing or having to share things with anyone arises. Things just naturally and lovingly take place. Nothing is forced, nothing is pushed, no such agenda exists with love. When someone's ears are open to hearing, truth has a special way of finding its way to souls that crave it. Life may dramatically change. The people, jobs, and experiences you have vibrate on a certain frequency. As you change and wake up, expect change. You may lose a job, friends, relationships, positions, or other things. Don't worry when the fears that you have held for so long have mostly gone. You will face the new changes with courage, fortitude, and more peace. You will gain new friends, relationships, jobs, or other things that are more supportive of the person that you have become on the inside. This may be very unsettling at first. In fact, it can cause some very significant disruption in your life. Those around you will fiercely want to keep you the way that you have always been and may outcast you when you don't fall in line. You may not resonate with them like you used to. This is not a reason to reject them or push them away, but instead to realize that they may not be what is best for you anymore. When you change and love more, those around you may be inspired by the love bursting out of you and desire to experience this change too, or they will resist and it will result in phasing them out of your life. This can bring up even more things for you to process through as well. This can be perceived as a loss in life. Loss is usually experienced with sadness or grief. If you experience sadness, you will have an awareness that the change and shift that is happening is also helping you to see the sadness that you have been holding on to deep inside. Change will ultimately not stop you, though. It will be the catalyst for an even more rich experience of life. You may want to continue growing and evolving as the driving force in your life. You may disappoint others, but you will feel compelled to continue to follow the road less traveled because it will make all the difference. Your desire to serve increases. You may find that you feel an urgency to contribute more to the service of God and mankind in some way. I became a physician because I knew that I wanted to help others heal after seeing profound healing for myself. What better way to help others to heal than to help them have the tools, understanding, and resources to reclaim health where disease, pain, and sickness may abound? You don't have to become a doctor to serve God and mankind in some way. It will develop naturally, and whatever you do will be perfectly suited for you in whatever circumstance you find yourself. New temptations will be easier to handle. Temptations will arise that constantly try to suck you back into where you were. However, since you are more awake, the energy to surrender temptations will be much stronger. Most people try to fight the temptations they have. Fighting something is only resistance. The war on drugs will never work because it is based upon force, not power, which is love. When we desire to fight something, counter-resistance will always be found. The best way to deal with a temptation is not to fight it, but to surrender it. When surrendered, the temptation will disappear on its own and no fight needs to occur. Food cravings are some of the most difficult temptations to deal with in the health world. A craving can be handled by seeing it for what it is. A craving is just the feeling that the body is experiencing. Most cravings can be summarized by the emotion of lust. If we pay attention to and are mindful of what is sitting behind the craving, we can create awareness around it so that it can be surrendered. Cravings can occur for many different emotional reasons, but with more and more practice of learning how to let go and surrender, an inner source of power will be accessed that can make a temptation easier to handle. They can still be quite tenacious and persistent. If we fail, we also create more awareness around the guilt, self-loathing, or anger we feel for having given in to the craving or temptation. We can then choose to surrender that as well. You begin to trust the process of life like never before. In higher states of consciousness, you are more in tune and in touch with the source of life. Therefore, you begin to trust life more and more, even in spite of rough and difficult circumstances. Life does want to support you in every way. You may not think that support is the hard times that you are going through, but the hard times you're going through will ensure that whatever negative emotions are inside of you come out through these circumstances so that they can be faced and surrendered. With this understanding, whether you are in what we judge as good times or bad, life is working for you, not against you. Your understanding of this very idea deepens, strengthens, and grows. You can trust that it is going to work out for you no matter what. All things work together for our good. We can surrender our judgments of things we label as bad and difficult and trust life more deeply. You will deal with hurt and wrong more lovingly. When people do wrong to and even hurt you, you have a more compassionate response. You have an understanding that what they do is all they know how to do. If people knew how to do better, they would, but they don't, so you have more compassion. You have more compassion for the suffering of others that they project onto you and into your life because you realize that you too, at one time, largely projected your own suffering and negative emotions in the world. Forgive them and yourself, for they know not what they do. You have more compassion for others because you have more compassion for yourself. The mind likes to judge when people do bad things to us, and we say things like, "They should have known better." What people do is one thing, your response to them is always and forever a reflection of you. Instead of focusing so much on what others do or don't do and judging them, you tenaciously notice how you are experiencing them and are more committed to surrendering your reactions than needing to change them. The need to change people lessens. Needing to change someone is often a reflection of us than it can be for the person you wish to change. We want people to be the way that we want them to be, or we judge our life as better. It is such a frequent experience in our relationships when problems arise to blame your friend, boss, or partner. We see them as the problem. If so-and-so would just change, things would be so different or better. How many times have you thought this or even said it out loud to yourself or to someone else? On one level, one of the most futile things in relationships to do is to expect someone else to change and meet your expectations. This is one of the ways to ensure that problems will continue to occur. The only person you can ever really change is you and your reactions. As we continue to see and take responsibility for how we are reacting to life, we focus less on others and more on ourselves. We progressively find ourselves less and less concerned with changing others, and much more concerned with changing and dealing with what is arising out of us. Love can be curious. Sharing occurs when necessary, and holding the tongue until our opinion is truly desired may be the best response. Love always knows how to respond even when met with anger in another. The more we focus on how we are experiencing things and surrendering what is occurring to us, we increase our capacity to be genuinely more loving to others in the present moment. You're more willing to forgive. Your willingness to forgive others is made stronger because you have committed to forgiving yourself of all the negative emotions that arise within you as you experience life. What you forgive in others is also what you choose to forgive in yourself. Forgiving others is all about how forgiving we are towards ourselves. If we are all one and oneness is the heart and center of beingness, then forgiving oneself is also forgiving things in others. They are inseparable. So many people live holding on to bitterness, resentment, and anger about things that have been done to them in the past. As you forgive yourself more, you are so much more willing to forgive others. Forgiveness is the literal and full expression of unconditional love and joy in this world. When you are unforgiving towards others, you realize that you are only allowing yourself to continue to suffer. Relationships are deeper, richer, and more fulfilling. Relationally, you begin taking responsibility for every negative emotion you experience as you relate to others. Doing this brings more peace to the relationships you have, at least in the way that you experience them. Relationships become more loving and are so much more rich and healthy when each person takes full responsibility for how they project their emotions into each relational experience. They even get better even if you are the only one taking responsibility for your emotions. Stop blaming others because you stop blaming others because you are taking full responsibility for your anger and the fears sitting behind the anger. You also begin to see how often relationships serve as a way to secretly meet our selfish desires. You stop projecting your happiness into what a relationship can give you, and you begin to be more giving. You start owning the source of power within yourself rather than needing to get it from another. You are more giving not because you expect something in return and get resentful when someone doesn't reciprocate or give back to you. You aren't trying to get someone's approval or trying to control as frequently. You simply give because you love to give, with no expectation of anything in return. As a consequence, relationships are built on love, trust, care, genuine concern, and seeking in others' well-being as much as your own well-being. Power struggles, control, selfishness, and abuse fades away. These friendships and relationships are so life-giving that they often bring you to tears. The gratitude that wells up from within you and overflows out of you is quite surprising. Sex becomes more and more amazing. Sex is a sacred gift that reflects the deepest part of our divine programming for oneness and connection. On the deepest levels, we find ourselves connecting to and loving someone rather than simply meeting a need. Oneness and connection are the supreme focus. It is an act that ultimately expresses the oneness you have come to experience within and wish to share with another. It is less about just wanting to feel good and is no longer localized to the physicality of the body. Orgasms become more intense and change as you grow. Orgasms are experienced beyond the physical body and can feel as though they encompass both of you. Both people more fully trust and open their vulnerable hearts to one another. Being one with and molding into the presence of the one you are with becomes possible. Sex can morph into it being a physical expression of the oneness, connection, and love you feel with someone. Separation from others, which is just an illusion maintained by the ego, diminishes. The oneness you feel with another is heightened to new levels. Sex draws us into the narrative that our separation from God doesn't exist either, and is an illusion supported only by the ego. The more loving you are towards yourself, the more you are free to love another. The sense of enjoying the naked presence of another becomes quite intoxicating. You are free to explore, try, and do anything in harmony with one another. You find yourself naturally wanting to ensure the pleasure of the one you are with. Sex becomes an experience of mutually giving and receiving and meeting your partner's needs physically, emotionally, and spiritually. You not only are vulnerable physically, but you become more vulnerable emotionally, not just giving your body to another, but your soul and spirit as well. The real magic of sex is not being physically vulnerable, which seems more common than ever in society today, but being vulnerable and open emotionally, which can be quite rare. Everything in the world becomes more beautiful. In reality, everything is not more beautiful, but since our inward beauty is shining more brightly, our eyes are increasingly open to seeing the beauty of all things. Our perception of everything changes because we have changed deeply from within. We begin to see beauty in the world in ways we have never before. Before deeply letting go of my emotions, I had many painful nights filled with tears and often fell asleep crying. Now I may cry to myself to sleep, but the tears are ones of joy. Thinking about certain things, people, and circumstances have brought such joy into the present moment that I am moved to tears. I no longer hesitate to cry because I don't have much resistance to tears or crying. It just flows freely if this is what presents itself in the moment. Additionally, upon hearing a beautiful song, viewing a touching scene from a movie, seeing an act of kindness when someone thinks of you, tears of joy may bubble up freely from within. This is not just oversensitive emotionality either. Many people cry because they're feeding off of negative emotions, yet this is an entirely different experience. When one encounters beauty, it is seen in all of its stunning radiance, and you can't help but cry by the sheer magnificence of what you're witnessing. Boredom lessens and needing to be entertained diminishes. Boredom is a negative emotion within the family of resentment, a gallbladder emotion. Boredom is a form of resentment that life is not entertaining us the way we want. As we let this go, we become more happy and content wherever we may find ourselves. We can shut our eyes and go deep within to a meditative state at any time. We can be content doing nothing or doing anything. Many people watch television for hours at night, watch sports all day long on the weekends, or binge watch Netflix without realizing that it is a subtle form of escape. What are you escaping from? Perhaps it is the constant, continual chatter of our minds. or the pain we hold within, or the suffering we are unwilling to really take a look at within. For some, being quiet and sitting in silence is brutal and very difficult. I have heard people say that the silence drives them crazy. Stillness and silence are the substrates of life itself because they are synonymous with peace. When peace is the pervading experience within, the mind literally goes silent. This is what the Buddhists refer to as no mind. This is what Christians refer to as experiencing the mind of Christ. This is another reason why so many struggle with meditation. The mind just simply won't shut off and frustration ensues. Try to sit for even 2 minutes and you'll find your mind wandering to some or so many thoughts. But like doing anything well, meditation requires constant dedication and perseverance. I can attest that I used to analyze, overthink, and worry about anything and everything. Now, after having released so many emotions, my mind is much more silent. I still struggle like everyone else to still my mind, but it has gotten easier over time. I do escape from time to time and enjoy entertainment just like anyone else, but needing to escape from life is not the primary motive now. I have rough days, but more consciously choose to engage how I feel and face my feelings head on, rather than having to escape from them or numb them out. Life is filled with more wonder rather than boredom, and this can be seen everywhere we look. Our opinions about things soften. Opinions are completely natural for the mind to have, but an opinion plus negative emotions are an entirely different experience. Have you ever met someone who is constantly arguing with others about everything and defending or needing to prove what they think? They need to let everyone know that they're right and have all the answers. On the surface, pride is the constant need to be right or superior to others. As mentioned before, pride comes from our inner insecurities. This fear is what most people truly react to in pride. People can sense the difference between when one is defending their point of view rather than just lovingly sharing it. When it is being defended, it is being done out of a deep fear or insecurity. As we let go of our negative emotions, we also let go of being so attached to our opinions of everything and needing to be right. When you begin to embody the truth from within, love softens our perspectives and an inner stability shines forth. When you embody the truth as a reality from within, you find that you no longer need to defend anything. Truth doesn't need a defense. If you disagree with others, you can make your point of view known, but find no need to defend it. You are also more open to hearing about the experiences of others, always wanting to learn and grow, even if you disagree. You ask a lot more questions and remain curious, even if you don't agree. When you have a conversation with someone, if they're interested in what you have to say, you will find a curiosity develops between the two of you. You find yourself asking questions and questions being asked of you. You are more interested in learning, expanding, and growing. You can only grow if you're curious, open, and constantly asking questions in order to learn. We all have found ourselves in situations sharing something that has impacted and changed us, and our words fall on deaf ears, or even worse, people reactively argue and negate what you say. People may take no interest whatsoever in what you're sharing, and that is completely okay. You simply become aware of this and either continue to ask them questions or realize that they're just not interested in learning or getting to know you, and you stop sharing. Amidst all of this is just a softening to life and the attachments you have as you see the world. We are constantly pulled more into the present moment. Often, our lives are lived either in the past or the future. We may live every day in regret, sadness, shame, guilt, or anger of the past, or we live in fear over the future. Have you ever been with someone who was physically present with you, but emotionally they were on a different planet? They are not here and now. They are in the past or in the future. Technology has made this seemingly worse. We are tethered to our phones and may have difficulty disconnecting from technology. I have been at a restaurant seeing everyone on their phone rather than being fully and completely present to the company in front of them. Have you ever been listening to someone but are not present and are only thinking of the next thing to say or to defend your position? Being present is being with someone and not trying to change them or having an agenda, but being fully engaged with them and with what they are saying. It is exploring with curiosity, love, and non-judgment as to what is being said and communicated. I have struggled with this and continue to struggle with it. It can be difficult to be present and to hold space for another, but it gets better the more clear you become on the inside. When present, we can focus on another rather than just ourselves. We can see others' needs and desires more clearly in the moment. We can anticipate things in the moment. Clarity is much more a part of our interactions with others. We can see the emotions we are having in each moment rather than being completely engulfed by them. We can take increasingly more responsibility as to how we are interacting and reacting to every single moment. Being present is being in tune with life as it is, and we begin to see the magic and marvel of what is truly in front of us. We become more aware of our bodies. When we feel pain, we are less resistant to it. Instead, we become more inquisitive, non-judgmental, and out of curiosity and meditative awareness, we ask our bodies to tell us if this pain is a messenger of something that holds attention in our lives, or that needs attention in our lives, or if it is something that we have been holding on to that yearns to be surrendered. Much of the physical pain that is experienced in the world today is emotional. It's not often seen this way, but when you see hundreds of people let go of the emotion sitting behind pain, and then it disappears, it becomes very convincing. We become one with and stop resisting the pain we experience, rather than wanting to escape from it or take a drug at the first sign of it in our body. Our diets and eating habits also become much better because our physical body experience is largely a reflection of what we are carrying emotionally. We become so aware of our body that we can almost intuitively tell whether something we eat is good for us or not, instead of just satisfying an emotional craving. Emotional love for self automatically translates into better eating habits. We consume more vegetables and fruits and are more concerned about what is in our food and whether something is really healthy or not. Is our pain a way of telling us we need more water, certain nutrients, rest, or something else? We pay more attention. If we take the time to be present and tune in, normally the message is there waiting to be received as long as we are ready to listen. Or if we don't have the answer because of our intention to want to heal, which is a form of prayer, we find the resources or people who can supply the answers for us. They appear serendipitously in our life. Support and healing are always available. The more conscious we become, the more we use our right brain. Our intuitive sense of the world develops at an alarming pace. We experience more of an inner knowingness, trust, peace about things rather than worrying about them. Seemingly supernatural things may start to happen that are associated with intuition and the awakening of the right brain. These have been historically known as spiritual gifts. We may resist it at first, or things maybe seem strange because they are new to us or don't appear to be logical. Over time, if we surrender to them and let go of the fear and confusion that may arise, we begin to see the gift that is offered to us in tapping into this side of our consciousness. The right brain is more creative, intuitive. We don't know how we know, we just do. It's fluid, emotionally intelligent with feeling and sensing, sees the big picture, and is imaginative. Clinically, when I used to do acupuncture, I followed exact point prescriptions because this is what I was taught. I thought that finding the exact right point or following the perfect protocol would be what made people heal. Needling the right point is important. However, over time, I learned to take the left brain book knowledge I have and am aware of and combine it with an intuitive sense of how to treat a patient. It is less about getting things right or wrong, but learning that if I needle someone with love, care, and intention, the treatments are always more powerful. I still use my left brain knowledge combined with the right brain intuitive sense of how to help someone. It makes practice more lighthearted, fun, creative, and treatments more healing. We begin to sense and intuit the thoughts and feelings of others more clearly. We are more sensitive to how the world feels around us. Our own noise, the negative emotions we have, diminishes as we let go, enough so that we can be more sensitive and aware of what others are feeling. We can more easily perceive and sense exactly what others are feeling. When you spend hundreds, if not thousands of hours learning to recognize and feel the emotions within yourself, you intimately become aware of these same emotions in others. Often in practice, I find myself being very aware of exactly what someone is feeling because I literally can sense and feel it within them. Intuition is a learned skill that anyone can learn to have, and which all have on some level, but it needs practice and attention to be sharpened as a skill. It is the heightened, subtle levels that take much time and practice to master. This is called true empathy because you have learned to have an increased empathy and forgiveness for your own negative emotions. We don't take on other people's emotions or let them affect us. This isn't healthy. We simply learn to sense, name, and know emotions when they are present in another. This may make some people feel very insecure because nothing can truly be hidden. Emotional energy cannot be hidden even if someone is projecting an appearance outward yet feels the opposite on the inside. Emotions can be tuned into with anyone at any time. I only tune into people that I have permission from or in situations where tuning in can help to keep me safe in unsafe circumstances. My favorite questions to ask in the clinic are, what was the emotion you just felt as you expressed that thought? Or, what was the emotion driving such and such a behavior in that memory? Or, what emotion is driving the pain or sensation that you are experiencing in your body now? We can be curious together. As we do, we experience the right brain in all of its creative, imaginative brilliance. Life appears to slow down or intentionally slows down. A desire to move out of such a fast-paced life may begin to kindle within. We care less about achievement, approval, money, success, and having to have the latest gadgets and toys. We care more about living and loving well and helping others to do the same. We begin to long more and more for silence and retreat because complete silence, which is peace, is the end of the road on the spiritual journey. However, when we come out of daily moments of silence and retreat, we bring the silence with us into our world, even into a life that can be fast-paced. We increasingly crave growth and knowledge. We may begin to read more, have more desires to grow, and may engage in activities such as meditation, prayer, and contemplation. We humbly realize that many other people that have lived before us were much further along in the path than we are. So we learn from them and their life experiences to grow and become. Harry Truman once said something to the effect of, "Not all readers are leaders, but all leaders are readers." I recently heard a statistic that most CEOs read an average of 1 book per week. People are thirsty to grow will usually engage in activities that help them to continue growing. Reading is one of the best ways to grow and learn. The source of all real knowledge is within, yet we learn more outside of ourselves first to learn how we can foster true inner knowledge. The heart behind "know thyself," the famous quote attributed to many people throughout time, is the driver of this endeavor. It is the simultaneous paradox of being the knowledge we seek, yet also seeking it at the same time. We move between the paradox of this idea until we may reach the point of being fully what we already are and realizing there was nothing to seek all along. This is true knowledge, true knowingness. Our listening preferences for music may change. We may find ourselves being drawn to music that reflects higher levels of consciousness and the beauty of such music. In other words, we feel more drawn to music that reflects or embodies love, joy, and peace. Music that speaks of drugs, betrayal, hurting others, sex and lust, selfishness, anger, fear, and other such qualities are left behind. The worst of such music would be gangster rap and heavy metal or death music. People who embody the love that they are have no need to listen to such music. Often I will put on a relaxing station after a difficult day of work and can feel how such music revives me from within. If I have spent the day being stressed out and haven't been living in the love that I am, a song that reflects this can pull me into a loving space almost instantly. Mozart, Beethoven, Pachelbel, Debussy, or other classical music can bring us back into serenity and peace. Chinese flute music is something that I play in the clinic at times during acupuncture, which can help people relax and fall asleep rather quickly. You may also find yourself drawn to something like Gregorian chants. You may have another form of music which has the same effect on you.